the best way one can give back to help shape the future IT leaders. I remember when I was a student in Canada, I actually got an award for being the top student in my program from KIPS. KIPS is Canadian Information Processing Society. It's a society that actually sets standards and best practices and the IT certifications in IT, for IT professionals in Canada. And, now looking back, as a part of that, I got free membership, with KIPS. Now when I look back, I realized that I didn't really take advantage of that to the full extent. I did go to a couple of events, but there was nobody really to advise me how I could have done differently. So here is my message to you students. Now that you are exposed to an amazing organization like SIM, it makes it a commitment, to give back, to develop future IT leaders. Make those connections. Figure out how you can participate, how you can get some information, how you can find a mentor or get some advice. SIM offers a lot of opportunities and the future is yours to shape. So thank you again and congratulations to the students. I have a few slides to go through and then we will get through our main program. All right, first of all, thank you to our sponsors, Astam. All right, some upcoming events. We have on April 19th, our SIM Women Portland webinar. It's a free event, anybody can join. They are really, really good events. Please spread the word also. This time, the topic is Embracing Adversity and Being Stronger for It by Andrea Bollington, CIO OSU. Please share the information and if you can, be there. Then we have the Leadership Book Club. It's led by Travis Lucky and it's on May 22nd and really good books, so again, please, try to join for a good discussion on leadership. And then, our flagship program here, our annual scholarship call tournament is coming up in September. It's a very popular event, so please register. Visit KDS.org and register if you want to be there. It gets sold out actually, so September 7th. Okay, so today is also the day that we are electing new board members in the SIM Portland chapter. So we have the results of the election, and if you are present here, may I request you to just stand up and wave so everybody can see you when I call your name. All right, here are our brand new board members. For President-elect, Ms. Abby Wright. For Treasurer, James Nutt. Education Director, Travis Lucky. Programs Director, Jimmy Boda. Marketing Director, Vikrant Reddy. Membership Director, Rodi Nagras. And we have trustees, Pradeep Kumar. And Richard Andrea. Congratulations to the elected board members and welcome to the board. All right, now I'm going to give over to Pradeep, who will present the rest of the presentation and get us started. Thank you, Pradeep.
Hi. So my name is Pradeep Kumar, for those who may have heard of. I've been on the SIM board since 2008, so I'm a glutton for punishment, I guess. And for those of you who are curious about how we hold trustees, it's trustees who are people have served time as president and still we are suckers to do volunteer work. So we get this title of trustees who have served time as president. So there are 3 of us who chose to continue to serve, right? And these are 1-year renewable. The president, on the other hand, is a 4-year commitment, right? It's a 1 year as a president-elect, 2 years as president, and 1 year as past president. So all the other board members, it's a 2-year role. And what you see here in the election is we have a different way of doing the election. We select half the board on the even years and half the board on the odd years. So what you see here is just half the profile, right? So that way we get some continuity. So the other board members that will still remember what, rather than new people coming in don't know what they're supposed to be doing. We have half the board that will help the new board take home, right? So just to give you a mechanics of that. And let's see my next slide. So we'll get onto the SIM-Portland. The history of SIM-Portland scholarships. It started in 2003. We started as a golf tournament, and at that time, if you remember 2003, we have to, the IT leaders in Portland were having a difficult time hiring qualified IT professionals. We had to import them from California and other ways. We are paying, relocation fees and all that kind of stuff, right? And so what we needed to do is to try to incentivize more people going to the MIS BIS degree track, right? And so, the second part is to try to engage with the local universities that has accredited program in BIS and MIS type track. So in 2003, we started engaging with the universities, and primarily at that time was PSU, OSU at that time, and I can't remember. At University of Portland, I think some of the early hitters. And PSU eventually dropped out at some point in 2017. PSU decided that MIS doesn't belong to the School of Business. I don't know why. So they threw the program out, and WSU became the beneficiary of the program. So WSU, in fact, all the students from PSU migrated to WSU. So at that time, I engaged with WSU to get into the program, and that's how we had that profile. And then at some point, late in 2016 or 17, we got OIT engaged because they also have an accredited program. They have 3 different tracks at the time. They added a 4th. The newest program they added is the bachelor's degree in information security, right? So we as a board decide every year which are the universities that would get the scholarship. And the scholarship, the amount of scholarship, there's basically the golf tournament, we earn about $50,000-$60,000 every year. And we decide on what the allocation is to each university based on the number of graduating students, right? So OSU has the largest graduating students, so if you're wondering why they get the most funds, because they have the bigger number of the bigger graduating class. So it's basically an approximation on the number of graduating students. So when you look at back in time from 2003 to today, we have already given out over $800,000. So in 2011, I started in SIM-Portland as the director of education, and that was my job to liaison with the universities. And in 2011, I got tired of giving students a scholarship, and they say I'm going to win. So I started this. At that time, I put together the STEP outreach program where I got the university students to engage with SIM members to go out in the middle school and high school. And that program was wildly successful. We got about 13,000 connects. So basically, they go into classrooms to present topics on potential careers in IT and information science to begin with, right? And that program within the 4 years, by 2016, we reached about 12,000 kids by that, right? So the program continued, but COVID kind of put a stop on that because now are going to classroom. So we will eventually be trying to build up that program again this time around. But what we also do is we also have a mentor program with the SIM students from the BIS, MIS degrees. Today we have a initial program with OSU and University of Portland, where the student members get partnered with SIM members to help them, kind of architect what their career is going to look like, right? So those are some of the initiatives we have. So SIM as an organization, as our main purpose is to provide a forum for thought leadership in the management of information change in IT. And so we have a number of different programs. So Fred Pond here, let's see, around here, okay. So if you haven't heard of RLF, Regional Leadership Forum, that's one of the 4 career tracks that you have through SIM. And RLF is what's a premier program that, it's a 9-month program that help you figure out your leadership self. So unlike management, leadership is something, everybody have a unique leadership self. And so the SIM RLF program help you figure that out in 9 months, where you go through 27 books and 3 movies and do a lot of role play exercises and all that, right? So it's a very intense program and you get as much as you put into it. So how many RLF grads do we have in the room? 1, 2, yeah, but a few of them, right? All right. So it's graduated about 5,000 people over the last 30 years of existence.
30 years, sorry,
30 years of existence, right? So
27 years here in the Pacific Northwest.
Yes, 27 years, yeah. So anyway, so those are some of the things that SIM Portland does. So with that, I would like to bring up the faculty representative from OIT.
So I have the pleasure of introducing Miguel Ramirez, who's with us this evening. Kevin, too, and Austin Miller were not able to be here, but just want to appreciate all that you do for SIM and advancing the next generation of management professionals. So thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Naga Vimbrala. I'm an assistant professor at University of Portland. I want to thank SIM for providing the scholarships to our students from the last 10 years. And let me introduce my students now. Tiffany. Ashley. Leo.
I'd like to call Avery Smith from WSU.
Thank you very much, and we bring greetings from WSU Vancouver. We have 4 scholarship winners. Unfortunately, Evan was not able to be here tonight. He's sick. I know he's sick because he missed my class. And you have to be really sick to miss my class. That's the students. So we have Brianna, if she would stand up. She's also my teaching assistant for 2 years, so you know she's a good student. She survived being my TA for 2 years. And then Tyler. Tyler is president of our MIS club, which we also call SIM. And he's currently doing succession planning, so he's learning further leadership skills and moving into a new president. And then finally, Laura. Interacting with Laura's parents, so I've given them lots of insight. Thank you very much.
And now I'd like to call up Renee Reisman from Dr.
Thank you much. So the slide that you see behind me is the slide that we prepared for this event in 2020, which we couldn't have because of COVID. Right, and at that time, these were, for as much as we could reconstruct, all the scholarship winners that you had all supported so generously over the years until 2020. Now, there's about 80 people on this slide to give you a sense of your generosity. But since, wait. But since that time, another 30 were added, right? In 2020, 2021, and 2022. So our 2022 winners, we had 15. We spread the love a little bit this last year. 15. 7 of those are here tonight. I want to please, if you're a scholarship winner, please stand up, please, to be recognized. I'm going to call your name. We have Colton Hallett. We have James Freerwood. Sahar Miles. Mr. Blanco. Ana Mercado Camacho. Norman Nguyen. And Peg Sean Bouquet. Thank you so much.
Thank you all. And how do you guys enjoy the tour today? Yeah. So for those of you who are not here, who are not on the tour this morning, we had a tour at the Daimler North America Trucks. We went through the shaker lab and the core lab and all the different things that they use to test this huge Freightliner cabs, right? Basically the truck, the interesting wind tunnel tool is a very interesting journey through all the different labs on the campus. And then we had a conversation with the IT folks on what they're doing in terms of business transformation. The afternoon was at Nike campus, and Nike is, you probably know, the largest shoe company in the world that does make shoes. And so their focus is on brand marketing, so it's a whole different experience, right? It's about marketing strategy, marketing awareness, supply chain. So I think it was a more engaging for the students because it's all about things that they need to look forward into the future, right? It's a very intense discussion about using AI, machine learning algorithms, and all the different tools that they have in the trade to look at supply chain worldwide. For that single shoe that is maybe on flight somewhere else and they cancel the order, how do we deal with that, right? Or get diverted to another person rather than sending back to store. I didn't realize that's complicated, right? It's halfway in the flight, say, oh, they cancel order. Okay, but we have this other person who wants it, let's ship it there, right? Right. It's very fascinating discussion, right? So tonight, so as we normally do until 2020, by the way, the 2020 event, we had it all set to go. We had Steve Brown from the former Intel specialist to do the presentation, and we had the books. He had the book called
Innovation Ultimatum.
Innovation Ultimatum, right? And I had 130 copies of books here ready to go. And that Sunday before the event, the governor of this Oregon declared a state of emergency, right? All that work went out. And yeah, anyway, so these are first student events since 2020, right? And so we typically have a keynote speaker, and hang on. And today, our keynote speaker is Steve Lindsay, who was a CIO of LVT. Yeah, I put it incorrectly. So I rather than going into his biography, I'm going to let him talk about himself, introduce himself, and I think we need to do a little switcheroo right now, right?
Real quick, let's have a round of applause and appreciation for bringing
I'll just run it here. It's cool. All right. Can I be heard?
We hear you.
Do you hear me here or do you hear me there?
I don't think that.
I hear you here.
Hang on. I don't know if I'm loud enough or not.
I don't know.
Is my thing green or red back here? Testing. Siblets. If any of you old Saturday Night Live fans. Siblets. All right, is that good? I mean, I can talk loud, but I would.
I don't think it's coming through yet.
People in the back here? No.
All right. I'm on.
You should have taken a front row seat.
Yeah, is it green or red back there? She says it has to be.
It's green.
It's green, so it's green.
She's just turning you out.
All right.
Yeah, it sounds like it's coming through.
Is it coming through?
Michelle, can you hear? Is this a test?
Hello, Michelle. All right. All right. Okay. So I'll just start talking, and I'll try to talk loud, and hopefully she'll turn the volume up. But yeah, it's an honor to be here. I'm humbled. Really appreciate Sasha and Pradeep for their hospitality in hosting me while I'm here. But yeah, let me get into this. Grit, guts, and determination. There is a theme behind this, but let me tell you a little about myself. I am from Utah. That explains the huge family. Okay, actually, no. I'm a blended family. I had 3 daughters. My wife brought 4 kids, so 2 daughters, 2 sons. It just so happens that all of our, you want to switch?
I think this is working better. We can hear you on that, Lisa.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's working. She had me all wired up here, so I got wired up here. Like this one goes down the back and up the arm. Okay. Yeah, she did. She had me wired up perfectly. Thank you. All right, testing. All right, that's better. Yes, technology works. Yeah, so my wife brought 2 daughters, 2 sons, and yes, I have 5 daughters that are all in college. Okay. Yes. So, being from Utah, 3 of them go to University of Utah. One goes to Brigham Young University, and the other one goes to Southern Utah University. You know, architects, medical, like they're all over the place. Brilliant girls. And my wife has worked her entire career. She's a computer geek just like me. And our daughters have been just absolutely phenomenal in helping with the family, as you can imagine. I'm busy, my wife's busy. And so now they're all at college, and now we're freaking out because we're like, who's going to take care of the 2 boys, right? But we'll figure that out. It's been there. But yeah, my bio, I got a bachelor's degree in electronic engineering and information technology at BYU back in 1990 something or other. It's been so long ago I can't remember. I started an entrepreneur business in 2000, and I'll get into that a little bit more as part of my story that I'll tell. But I love mountain biking. Now, I don't love mountain biking because it's mountain biking. I like it because I love to eat, okay? And it's one of the best forms of exercise to burn all the calories that I keep eating. So it's just this vicious cycle of eat and then ride, eat and ride. But yeah, so, and I'm a musician. I've been a drummer for a long time, played in a rock band, you know, just did cover songs. I'm not that creative. But yeah, that was a lot of fun. But yeah, today I'm going to talk a little bit about my love of biking, okay? I'm going to draw this all together. Trust me, it has a purpose. But here's my career. I worked at BYU. I was going to school, starving student, worked in all kinds of computer-related type things. And then I also worked for a company called Quantum Leap. This was a company that literally would pull fiber optic cable and Cat5 cable and wire up buildings, and we did network type stuff. And then after college, I started working at a company called Novell. Now, all you young kids here have no clue what I'm talking about, do you? Okay, at one point, Novell owned 95 to 98% of all network operating systems. Okay, that's when I worked there. I can't explain what happened when I left. Okay. No, so I worked in software engineering. I worked on NetWare for all you old folks remember. I worked on NetWare, yes. I worked on GroupWise. I worked on eDirectory. I worked on all those as a software engineer. My wife also worked as a software engineer on those same products, which is how we got to know each other. But yeah, I got a lot of experience in developing software, enterprise level grade, those types of things, working there. And then I got recruited away to work for a company called i3 Technologies. Now, at this time, I had also started a business, this audio share business, okay? Who's heard of audio share? That's what I thought. Who's heard of Sonos? Yes. Guess who won? Yeah, Sonos won. I didn't win. That's part of my story. And then, of course, I'm at LVT right now. So let me explain a little bit about LVT, because I want to set this stage, okay? LVT, you've probably seen these things maybe. It's a tower, blue flashing lights, solar panels, has cameras up on top. This is a security as a service product, all right? It is a full subscription product that a lot of retailers will use. So your Lowe's, Home Depots, whatever, you'll see it in their parking lots. We do a lot with government, we do a lot with construction, but what it is essentially a security guard that's all technology, okay? So artificial intelligence, computer vision, all types of IoT connectivity. You've got cellular infrastructure behind it. You've got solar power and generation. There's an enormous amount of technology in this thing. And I had the honor of working with some very brilliant people on this thing. And this company has been around for probably 18 years, but it wasn't until the last 3 that we really started seeing all of this momentum, right, in the business. Who has heard of businesses that are called unicorns? Okay, we are a unicorn. Now let me ask you a more difficult question. Who's heard of businesses that are centaurs? What's a centaur?
100 million in revenue.
Yes, 100 million. It's what?
Cato Networks is Centaur.
Okay, yes, Cato, congratulations. How many centaurs are there in the world?
Google.
Less than 200. Okay, so 200 companies that are private. This doesn't include public companies, but private companies that are centaurs, there's 200 of them or less. There's actually way more unicorns. So that's why a centaur is more rare, right? It's this mystical thing. So yeah, LVT, we're kicking butt, okay? I'm so excited about it. Life's great. But let me tell you the story how we got here. Because that's what's interesting, is the story. To tell you this story, I'm going to turn this microphone on, I think. All right, there we go. Yep, that's good. Okay. Who's heard of the Leadville 100 mountain bike race? Really?
Well, I've actually heard of the Leadville, the ultra marathon.
The ultra marathon.
But I do know about Leadville.
Okay, yeah. So Leadville started with this ultra marathon. It's a 100-mile marathon race. Okay. Well, they decided to start a mountain bike race. Okay. So I'm going to show a video real quick about this race. Okay, and I want you to learn about everything that's entailed in this race, and hopefully you'll pick up the audio on this.
The Leadville 100 mountain bike race is a 104-mile out and back race that starts in the small town of Leadville, Colorado. Starting at 10,200 feet above sea level, riders quickly make their way down an asphalt road, vying for the critical position needed to make the first big climb of the race. Getting their first taste of dirt, riders make their way to the bottom of St. Kevin's Mountain, a 1,000-foot climb with grades up to 18%, and presents the first single track part of the course. The trail then transitions back to asphalt for the fast descent around Turquoise Lake, where riders reach speeds up to 50 miles per hour. But that speed is short-lived as riders transition back to dirt to begin the 1,200-foot climb over Sugarloaf Mountain. Reaching the summit, riders are treated to the most technical downhill section of the race as they navigate the twists and turns of challenging single track that takes them to the infamous power line descent, where they'll encounter ruts the size of their bikes and the 18% grade that constantly threatens to throw them over their handlebars. At the bottom of the power line descent, riders switch back to asphalt for the 20-mile ride across the undulating valley floor. Here, riders must work together, drafting off each other to conserve valuable energy for the challenge they're about to face. As riders arrive at Pipeline, they're greeted with their first aid station, where they can resupply their water and food. Continuing through the valley, riders switch back to dirt as they navigate a variety of fire road and single track, eventually arriving at the second aid station located at Twin Lakes. This is the last chance riders have to restock their water and food before taking on the 3,000-foot climb up Columbine Mine. Starting their ascent at an elevation of 9,200 feet, Columbine Mine promises to be the most grueling 10 miles of their life. At 11,500 feet, the trees and the oxygen disappear. Here, oxygen levels are 40% of what they are at sea level, and they've still got another 1,000 feet of elevation before reaching the summit, where they'll face high winds and sudden hailstorms that threaten to make an already difficult race a living hell. This is the halfway point of the race. Now, let's turn around and ride the whole course back into town.
Okay, so that's Leadville. My business partners got this stupid idea to do this in 2014. Okay, I was a pretty overweight guy back then, but I was the technology guy, and they decided they wanted to do this race. It's hard to get into this race because it's a lottery, okay? And so you pay money, and then you just hope and pray you can get into this race. Well, my business partner's connected to everybody, and he knew the race director, and he said, hey, we at LVT, by then we were called Live View Technologies, we will provide live streaming of your race if you can give us a team spot, right? And so I go in, I figure out how to put cameras all over this remote area and live stream this thing, and he races it. And something happened to me when I was at the finish line watching all these riders come through. I said, I want to do this, okay? I don't know why I want to do this, but I want to do this. So the day we got back home, I started training as hard as I could so that in 2015, I could do this race, okay? Now, let me tell you a bit about this race. Again, you probably heard it, but let's just go over it again. It's 104 miles, okay? The first 50 miles, you get to go over all those summits, and the highest is at Columbine Mine. You know, it's above 12,500 feet. Has anyone been above 12,500 feet? Okay, it's
Not
hard to
airplane.
breathe.
Yeah.
Okay, it's hard to breathe, let alone do anything athletic, okay? Then, remember, that's halfway. So then you turn around, you do the whole thing backwards. So it's a total of 11,000 miles of climb, okay? If you've ever ridden a bike climbing 11,000 miles, that 11,000 feet, that's a lot of feet. Now do that at above 10,000 feet where there's no oxygen, okay? So that's what makes this race so difficult. How difficult is it? The record time finishing is 6 hours.
For 100 miles?
For 100 miles.
On
You've
bike.
probably all heard of this individual. Lance Armstrong did it in 6 hours, 28 minutes, and he was doping. Okay? His partner in crime, Floyd Landis, if you're into biking, did it in 7 hours, and he was doping.
With the champagne glass.
With the champagne glass. This is actually their Tour de France pictures. But yeah, they did those races in 2009, 2010, 2012 timeframe when they did it. Well, guess what? I got to do the race, right? And being a super athlete I am, I finished in 11 hours and 33 minutes. Thank you. I was so proud of this moment that I took this, box and I put my jersey that I wore, my medal, and by the way, they give you this cool belt buckle, okay? I'll talk about the belt buckle later. But this was my first year. 1 year of training, I got this success, right? It was awesome.
Now, let's really look into who would do this race. My wife still asks me, why would you ever put yourself through this? And it's an honestly good question. And the only answer I can tell her is that feeling you get when you finish. Okay? Like, it's undescribable, that feeling you get when you finish. And after you're done, you're so excited, and then you want to do it again. It's crazy. All right? But there's two of us in here that would do this race. I love it. Let's correlate this back to life. Let's correlate this back to business. Okay? So many people don't even start because they're afraid of something. Right? You know how difficult it's going to be, and you don't even start. Well, the lesson here is that that fear has killed more dreams than the actual failure that might come out of it. So you have to ask yourself, yes, things are going to be difficult. Do I dare do this or not? Okay, that's the first step. It's not guaranteed that you're going to finish, which is what we're going to get into. So, yeah, Robert Kennedy, only those who dare to fail greatly can ever achieve greatly. Okay? So, entrepreneurship. So, back in 2000, I mentioned this audio share business. Actually, as my capstone project, I invented this thing that was like Sonos, right? Audio networking. It was really cool. And I was too naive to know what I didn't know. And my buddy said, hey, we ought to start a business with this thing. Oh, great. Okay. So I'm writing code on this thing. We're building electronics. We're doing all this great work. And this goes year after year after year. This is 2000 we started. We didn't have a product to release until 2007. And just think about this. I have a day job all day long, and I come home at night and I write code for about 8 hours. And I would do that every single day. We got to the point where, like, everyone thinks, oh, I can just start a business if someone's going to throw investment money at me, right? How real is that? It's not real at all, especially in Utah at that time. Nobody was looking at Utah throwing investment dollars in Utah. So where did the money come from? My own pocket, my business partners' pockets. So we ended up mortgaging houses. We ended up maxing out credit cards. We ended up getting small business loans. We did all of these things trying to start this business and getting it off the ground, okay? 2006, I mentioned I got recruited away from Novell to help start this business called i3 Technologies. It was a natural sounding speech technology company, so a lot of math and science. In fact, it was one of those, have you ever been in, how many of us in this class have ever said in school, when am I ever going to use this in my life when you were learning a topic? Okay, that was me with trigonometry, okay? Well, guess what? In 2006, I started doing an enormous amount of trigonometry. That's how we solved a lot of these digital signal processing problems that we had to deal with there. But yeah, again, a company that we had to start. Now, it had investment money. It was the exact opposite situation of audio share. So I'm doing audio share at the same time, and I'm doing i3 as my day job, okay, with a whole bunch of investment money. All right? Trying to set the stage here. LVT, that one started actually in 2005 by two individuals, Ryan Porter, Bob Brenner. They were both finance guys. One of them actually had a manufacturing background. The other one was more of a finance background. Started the business. I ended up getting involved with them in 2011, okay? But they started the business in 2005 when the economy was roaring, right? And it was home, like surveillance, outdoor surveillance of homes getting built, right? So live streaming video of homes getting built. So in 2005, homes were getting built like crazy, right? 2006, getting built like crazy. 2007, what happened? The crash, okay? They almost went out of business, okay, doing that. And they got this rebirth, and that's kind of when I came in, was during that rebirth, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But this sets the stage for the entrepreneurship background that I have. 3 businesses, totally different money funding situations, time put into them and everything. All right, I mentioned I finished the first time in 2015, right? Now, let me tell you what happened in this race. What they do is they bring you in to this big gymnasium, all the riders. And there's the race organizer named Ken Kluber. Okay, this guy is awesome. In fact, he's so awesome, I want to show you this video of Ken Kluber in this gymnasium. It's all about getting you pumped up because you're about to do this race, okay? And so what he does is he gets you all settled down and he starts motivating you. And this is some of the example of what he sounds like and what he says.
Inside of each and every one of you is an inexhaustible well of grit, guts, and determination. When times get tough, and I'll guarantee you they will, you're going to have to dig deep. You're going to have to tell yourself you're not going to quit.
Okay. So that's what it's like. He's just motivating you, and this is him. I mean, is that not the most rugged looking guy ever? Okay. Well, think about it. Leadville was a mining town. This is where they mined silver, they mined lead. That's where Leadville came from, and they were just miners, right? And this guy comes from that lineage. He's just a rough and tough guy. Well, when they shut down the mines, they needed to figure out a way to start funding the town. And they came up with the ultra marathon, okay? He organized it. He was actually a legislator in Colorado, and so he's very well connected. But yeah, okay, I'm gonna start an ultra marathon, and that's gonna bring dollars for tourism, right, to Leadville. And he started everything, but that's him, right? Dig deep. He's just this greatest guy. But I remember him saying these quotes. You are better than you think you are. You can do more than you think you can. All right, start believing that when you hear that a couple of times. I commit, I will not quit. He gets everyone in the entire room standing up and just quoting this thing. It's awesome. And then at the very end, I remember this vividly. Nobody has ever died. Okay? So, all right, well, cool. I guess no matter how hard it hurts, right? I just have to keep going because nobody's died. All right. So let's look at this terrain again. This is the course now, the entire thing. If we look to the right over here, you'll see the Sugarloaf Pass right here, mile 80, okay? I'm at mile 80. Oh, by the way, the guy who had got me into this race, his name's Dave Stutter. You'll see him on a slide here coming up. He says, Steve, there's certain things you got to keep in mind, okay? First of all, when you're climbing Columbine Mine, there's an aid station up there. Don't stop. There's no oxygen. Just turn around and get off that mountain as fast as you can. That's all that's going through my head when I'm at that point, okay? The other thing is he says, Steve, there's an aid station right here at mile 75 called Pipeline. Don't stop. You're going to be hurting so bad that you're going to want to stop, but don't stop. Just keep going. So I did that. I was hurting really bad, and then I just got on the bike because Dave said in my mind I should just keep going, so I kept going. And I started climbing this mountain, and I got towards the top, and I remember looking over to the right, and I saw all these riders around one guy, and they're doing chest compressions on him. And I was like, that doesn't look good. Okay. But I just remember thinking, well, he's got 7 guys helping him, but that doesn't look good, but I'm just going to keep riding. And I remember finishing. That's when I finished, 11:33. And then we all found out afterwards that Scott Ellis died. He was the first rider in the history of the race that died. And he died my first time racing it. This guy was a semi-pro. He was a firefighter out of in some area in Colorado, in great shape. And he died. He had a heart attack. He actually had 2 heart attacks. They revived him, and then he had another heart attack, and that's when they lost him. But he died right there when I went by. So the second time I'm racing, I hit mile 75. I'm not feeling good. And what's going through my head? Scott Ellis. I'm about to go into the area. It's pretty remote, by the way. This Sugarloaf Mountain area, it's hard to get to. And so, in fact, they were calling an ambulance to get there, but it took like an hour and something to get even an ambulance there. So I'm not feeling good. I'm throwing up left and right, and I'm about to go into that area, and I just let my mind get psyched out, and I quit because I thought of Scott Ellis. I had the greatest bike in the world. By the way, these bikes are about $12,000 if you want a really good bike. Shoes, $600. That bike helmet is probably $500. Those kits can be upwards of $400. Like you could be into this $18,000 in just the top of the line bike equipment, right? Well, think about starting a business. Like we think about investment money. We think about what does it take to run a successful business, right? At LVT, we just barely moved into the nicest building we've ever been in, okay? And we've got this awesome office space, and we've got top of the line hardware and equipment that we're using to develop software and engineering with. Is that what's gonna make you finish the race? Not at all. Let me introduce you to Ricky McDonald. The inaugural race of Leadville 100 mountain bike race, he takes whatever bike he has at the time, which is not sophisticated at all. In fact, it had the pads, you know. We do the disc brakes now. He has the pads that are pushing against the wheel. There's really no travel in any of the suspension at all. This dude's got his, I guess he was like a mechanic or something because he's got his mechanic shirt on. He raced 20 times on the same exact bike with the same tires and that same shirt. And because he finished 20 times, they gave him the enormous 2,000-mile belt buckle. Okay? Do you have to have the fanciest equipment to finish a race? No. Ricky McDonald figured it out. So let's think about what does it take to succeed at Leadville? Well, obviously you got to train, right? And you got to watch your nutrition. You got to have really good equipment, but it's mindset. Like it's the only thing that's going to get you through is that mindset. And when we think about how that translates over to life, it really maps very well. You get your talent, you got experience, but mindset is what's going to set you apart from anything else. And that's what we want to talk about today is that mindset. When we started LVT, we started in a garage in that house. And we ran a business and we made a decision that we were going to run a profitable business. We were not going to take investment money and waste it. And it was going to be organically grown. And we were going to be a service organization. Every dollar that came in would be reinvested back in the business, but we were not going to run deficits, right? And so we did everything at the scrappiest level you possibly could. This was our office, was this cubicle for years. And then we finally got enough money to move into this building right here, and we all just worked for months, just ripping this thing out and nailing and building walls up. And I'm a coder, and I'm doing construction work, okay? It's the scrappiness, it's the grit. That's what's going to get you through. The other stuff really doesn't matter. So happiness is a mindset, right? It's not a result of the circumstances that you're in. It's this concept of I'll be happy when, right? You got to find ways to be happy now. And you got to find ways to have that mental resilience to get through those difficult times now. Because you can fail, you can do all of these things and still be happy, right? It's just that mindset that makes it work. So lesson 7, if you can't be happy now, you'll never be happy when, right? You got to be thinking that through. So let's talk about the next lesson, succeeding in Leadville. Nutrition is everything, right? Okay, other than mindset. So the second year, I quit because mentally I just was thinking of Scott. I wasn't going to go die like he did. The third year I did it, I got pulled by medical staff. Okay, same exact spot. Mile 75, they wouldn't let me through. I was dehydrated. I was undernutritioned. Like I couldn't see straight. Like it was not good. And the medical's like, there's no way you're going on. Okay. So when we think about this in life, we have to think about balance, right? And to me, I always look at 4 things in balance. There's a spiritual, physical, financial, right? And then your mental. You got to have balance in all of those things. If one of those things are out of balance, you start going into what I call duress. And when you're in duress, you make bad decisions. All right? What happens when you're financially strung out? You start making stupid decisions. Okay? Ask anyone who has a gambling problem. All right? Or if you're just stressed out mentally, you just aren't thinking straight. Right? How many people manage people here? Right? All of you managers, when you're going to lead a team, you're hoping to be strategic thinkers, right? But what happens when you get under duress? Are you thinking strategically at all? No, you start thinking tactically. And then you just start dealing with day to day to day, and there's no way out of this vicious cycle, right? You've got to somehow get out of the duress and start thinking strategically again, right? So the other thing I want to talk about is this concept of low EQ. Does everyone understand what EQ is? Right? In the business term, we call it as this emotional intelligence, right? So IQ is your smarts and your knowledge and what you know, and EQ is really your social skills, like how well can you adapt to people in situations. You have a very low EQ when you're under duress, right? That's important. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But let's say that you've got everything in balance. Things are not always going to go your way. Okay? Well, what's not going to go your way? Well, it doesn't matter any of these things. It just isn't going to go your way, and things are going to go south. So change is going to happen to you, right? Market conditions. You could get laid off. This is great. Reorganizations, new boss management, like we all been through this many times, right? Change in strategy. I find this one funny. I mean, if you've ever run a business and you're in charge of payroll, you got to pay people, this whole idea of a bonus is a really interesting thing, right? Is the bonus something that you should guarantee that you're going to get? A lot of people think they do, but no, that's why it's called a bonus, okay? And I think the Christmas vacation, right? When he puts the pool in, he hasn't got his bonus yet because he got the Jelly of the Month Club. We have to put things in perspective and understand why are these things here. But death and loss, like change is going to happen. These two businesses did not end well. I mentioned I mortgaged, I did SBA loans, I did everything on that in that audio share business. Well, guess what? This was a business that really tightly coupled to home construction. Well, we got the product finalized in 2007, right when the recession hit. And I was highly leveraged, right? I was not in balance. I didn't have that financial balance in place. So as soon as that bad thing happened, dude, I was doomed. But when is a business over? Anyone here really an entrepreneur or started a business before?
When it runs out of cash.
I like that answer. The business is over when it runs out of cash, but is it really?
No.
No. When is the business over?
When you quit.
When you quit. Got it? Well, yeah, I ran out of cash. And I kept going for 3 more years trying to figure out how to keep this thing alive. And yes, I finally reached the point where I couldn't do it anymore and I had to quit. Okay. i3 Technologies, again, we took a lot of investment money and we actually had a product that was starting to get ready to. The only way I can describe this product is, have you ever seen the movie Mission Impossible 3? And there's a scene where he goes into the Vatican bathroom and he kidnaps the guy and says, read this, and it trains this little voice thing. And so he sounds like that person. That's what we were creating, was that, right? We got to a point, we call it voice puppeteering. So the idea was that you could take a voice profile from somebody and then you could have someone else talk and it would sound like them coming out. Now, that's actually a real thing now. Like we're starting to see that now. But back in 2007 and 8, that was still very novel. And there was this new movie that Hollywood was working on. We actually got connected with Kurt Russell. And he was hooking us up with various Hollywood people because they needed this ability to do this voice synthesis this way. And they were working on this movie about Queen, right? And they wanted to be able to get Freddie Mercury's performance on another actor's voice. Okay, now that movie ended up being Bohemian Rhapsody. But we actually, the company died before that we even got a chance to work on it. Now that died for different reasons, but again, 2 massive failures. And by the way, what happens if you're completely leveraged with credit card debt and house mortgages and SBA loans and you can't pay them back?
BK.
Huh?
You go BK.
Yeah, you go bankrupt. There's not much you can do. In fact, that's why the bankrupt law was created, was for business owners. That is the most dark time of my life. if you can imagine starting all over again after investing 10 years of your life into a business. Remember, I wrote code every night for 8 hours a night, just trying to keep that thing running. It was absolutely miserable. So let's talk about mile 80 some more. Again, mile 80 is this infamous Sugarloaf Pass right here where Scott died. So think about what's happened along this race. You've already raced 80 miles of this race. You've climbed over 8,000 feet at this point. You're burned over 5,000 calories, easy. You're about to go up an 18% grade that you can't ride. Lance Armstrong was the first to ride it when he was doped. The rest of us are doing that, right? We're just pushing our bike up this thing. There's no way we have the energy to keep going. And it's a 1,200-foot climb. And you're at the base of this thing and you feel like crap and you're about to go, all right, I'm about to go up that again. Okay? This is your mile 80. And you've got to make a decision. Am I going to keep going, right? After I've already done everything. At LBT, remember, I'm the technology guy. I'm there to write software. I'm there to do electronics engineering. I'm there to do network infrastructure. I'm there to do cloud infrastructure. I'm there to do everything. And guess what I'm doing a lot of times? In the middle of a snow blizzard, I'm out there fixing units. I can't feel my fingers. You know, you drop a screw and it goes into the snow and your closest hardware store is 2 hours away, right? That's what I'm doing. Or I'm on top of this thing, you know, strapped to the, but yeah, freezing conditions. There were times, we did a lot of work for Department of Transportation with their camera systems in the Intermountain West. And there were times when we would have to do maintenance runs and I would spend a week by myself with Mitch Rapp audiobooks or Jack Reacher audiobooks, if you've ever read those. And it's just me and Mitch and Jack, and we're just driving around North Dakota, Colorado, Wyoming, Idaho, you name it. I'm driving for a week at a time. Now this whole, have you ever seen the show Alone? Right? There is something that happens psychologically when you don't interact with another human. Okay, and it doesn't take long. It's like 2 or 3 days of being alone, and you start like seeing weird things happen. And that's me, right? By the way, I'm supposed to be writing software during all this. Out in the blistering sun, I showed you that picture of us building, you know, construction. But yeah, you wake up in the middle of the night because you got a support call. And you've already put in a long, hard day's work, and you got to answer the phone and help somebody with their problems. Or this was one of my favorites. You find out there's a code problem that happened at 1 a.m. and I'm just exhausted and I got to now figure out how to fix this, right? And get it working again. There were multiple times when me and my business partners worked a full day trying to get ready, doing whatever we need to do. And we had a meeting in Denver, Colorado. We're in Salt Lake City. We just have to hop in the car at 9 a.m. or 9 p.m. and drive all night so we're ready there for the meeting the next morning. This happened multiple times. And I don't function without sleep, by the way. That's another funny story. There were multiple times we had deliveries where we weren't ready for the delivery the next day, so we had to stay up all night, multiple times, to just get it ready. This is the mile 80 I'm talking about. Like you've already given everything you can in the day, and you've got to dig deep and figure out how am I going to get another 20 miles out of this day. That's business. Or if you're our CEO's brother who works for us, he's out doing a service call in eastern Utah, and after he finishes the job, he's driving home and he gets hit by someone who crossed the line and fell asleep, and he gets killed instantly. Now, if you're the CEO of our company and your brother just died doing a job for the company, what do? Right? What's your mile 80? Like, how are you thinking these things through? Lesson 5. How will you respond when you hit your mile 80? It's going to happen, whether you're a business, whether you're an individual contributor working for a company. The people that really make the difference are the people who dig deep and they can get something done when they need to. And let me give you examples of this. This is, I should really respond or pass this email along to so-and-so so that this problem doesn't happen, but I'm just too tired to push the send button. And so I just don't do it. That's a simple example of a mile 80 situation because it's 5 o'clock and it's time to go home. And those are the things that you just don't have the luxury of doing when you're in a business, right? So let's talk about miles 20 and 30. So miles 20 and 30 are the we call this outbound, by the way, because this is Leadville. You're outbound, you hit the turnaround point, and now you're inbound, okay? So 20 and 30 is right in this area. So you're just coming down that power line area. It's right there. So you got this really nice downhill, and you get into that Twin Lakes area. And so power line, you remember the video how it said that the ruts are as deep as the bike? Like, I don't know if you can see this, but these ruts are as deep as that bike, right? And there's only certain veins you can go down, and that's an 18-degree slant. So it wants to throw you off your bike. Anyway, that's Todd Sorensen. He won that year, and then that was the second place guy right there coming us is on the outbound. And just ironically, this is our camera when we were live streaming it in 2014. I thought it was kind of funny. But fast and dangerous downhill. And then what happens when you get here is you have to start riding like a Peloton rider. So now you're a mountain biker, and now you get into road bike mode, where you got to draft off people. Well, why do you do that? Well, because you got to conserve as much energy as you can, right? So who are you going to ride with? Well, let's correlate this back to business. You want to start a business. Who are you going to partner with? Who do you trust? Because you're about to do something that is going to cost you money and time and everything else. Who do you trust to do that? This is Ryan Porter. He's one of my business partners. He's our CEO. I trust this guy with my life. Why? I didn't know him before 2011, but we've been through an enormous amount together. All those things I showed you at mile 80, he was there right there by my side. I know I can trust him. He knows he can trust me. One of the stories he likes to tell is how he started a business with this guy, Bob Brenner. Remember, these two were in construction finance and mortgages. They knew nothing about technology. Bob could weld really good. That was his former life. But why was it that those two decided they were going to go into business together? Well, the story goes like this. Bob would come to Ryan as to get loans approved, right? So Bob represented various people who wanted to get a home loan. And I don't know if you've ever gotten a home loan in here. Half of us probably have. But, right, you have to, submit all your paperwork, and there's certain interest rates that you can get, and then there's certain down payments you have to have. And when you're coming into closing, you don't even know how much money it's going to cost you yet at closing, right? Because it's still an estimate. You know what I'm talking about? Okay. Well, Bob is the type of guy that would say, this is how much your down payment's going to be. This is going to be interest rate, whatever. And if anything went wrong between that statement and the time that they closed on the loan, if there was more money that the customer had to pay, guess who paid it? Bob. And Ryan watched this time and time again. And Ryan knew that Bob was a guy of integrity because he never, ever went back on a promise that he made. And Ryan at that point said, that's a guy I can trust, right? And they went into business, and he was right. Bob has never backed down from anything, and Ryan has never backed down from anything. Enter the third partner, Dave Studdard. This is a guy who used to be his dad was the assistant to the president of the United States for 3 different presidents. He lived in the White House for years. Okay, this guy's well connected. But again, this guy knows grit, and he knows guts, and he will be by your side all the time. He's the one that brought me into i3 Technology. So I knew Dave. Dave knew Bob. And so in 2011 rebirth, when we kind of got the company coming back, the 4 of us formed a partnership. And it was a lot of years of what I just talked about with mile 80. And we've been through a lot together. So the question I ask you is, trust is a two-way street, right? We always ask the question, can I trust this person? Can I trust that person? Can I trust that person? Have we ever asked ourselves, can those people trust me? Because that's an important question, because they're judging you just as much as you're judging them. And so I ask you, what type of person are you? Are you a person of integrity? Are you a person that will be by their side at all times? Does your word really mean what it means? Because that's how business happens, right? So how do you know when you need to lean on people, right? You're going to have relationships. They'll may come and go. But when you find that person that you trust, you latch onto them, because that's the person who's going to go to battle with you. You got to allow yourself to be loved. You got to allow yourself to be supported. Be someone you can trust. And I love this. Who here remembers the golden rule? I don't know if this is something we talk about all the time. What's the golden rule? Do unto others as you wish they would do unto you, right? I don't know if I said that perfectly, but that's how I grew up. And I knew that if I wanted somebody to treat me right, I had to treat them right. Okay? The golden rule takes you a long ways in understanding this trust concept. So reminding that, going back to this thing here, that talent, the experience, the mindset is huge. You've got to have that mindset and that EQ to get there. Let me tell you one other thing here at this point. I had a fellow CEO partner or friend of us come and talk to our company, and he talked about the type of person that walks into a conference room and what your reaction is. Okay, and what he's talking about is, again, those of you in the professional world, and maybe those of you in college, you're there and somebody walks into the room and you don't like that person. Okay, what tends to happen in that interaction? Right? Everyone just turns off. Nobody wants to talk to them. They kind of ignore them. They're not part of the conversation. But what happens when somebody you love and respect walks into the room? It's a totally different engagement, right? So the question is, what type of person are you as perceived by those in the room when you walk in? And that's where that EQ comes from. Okay, EQ to me is part of this mindset. It's huge. You can be the smartest person in the room. You have all the experience in the room, but if nobody wants to work with you, what's the point? Right? You've got to have good social skills. Mile 50, this is the turnaround point. All right. This is actual video taken in 2014 when my buddy was doing the race, right? This is Columbine. This is above the tree line now. There's no oxygen. You're about to make this turn, and we'll see what people do. They just kind of get off this thing. Now remember, I told you that my buddy said, don't stay on this mountain very long. Get off this thing. But watch what's happening. You got all these people in what we call the conga line. And then what's happening down here on this side? You got these people coming down here. Now, it doesn't look like it's very fast, but they're going at least 15, 20 miles an hour. Now, who wants to have a head-on collision with someone going that fast? Right? So you'll notice that these people are trying to time when they're trying to pass and when they're not. They're all exhausted. They can't see straight. They're hallucinating. And I'm not lying when I say hallucinating. Like, you just don't think straight, when you're up in this mode. But this is a really dark place to be, is on this mountain. You don't know why you're doing the race. You kept asking yourself, why did I do this? I cannot believe I'm here. Everyone else is feeling the same thing. It's just a horrible place to be. So anyway, I should have backed this up a little bit more. But anyway, my buddy is sitting like 5 riders up here. And actual, I don't want to waste too much time on this, but my buddy's there, and you got to see the guy. He's about to die. It's one of the greatest videos ever. All right, life can be grueling. So starting a business, right, is a very lonely road. What do I mean by lonely? Well, like, who's there to pick you up when you're financially dying? Oh, by the way, I didn't mention this. At Audio Share, I didn't take a paycheck for a year and a half. I didn't take a paycheck at I3 for a year and a half. I went with no money for a year and a half. And one of the reasons why I picked up the phone to talk to my business partners with LBT was because they had life insurance. Okay, and I didn't have life insurance. And I'm thinking, well, this would be a good reason to go talk to somebody. And the way they presented it to me was, we just need an IT guy. I'm like, I can do that in my sleep. If they just pay me something, that I can get health insurance. And so I went and had the meeting with them, but that changed my life, because what they were talking about In fact, that's why I stopped the audio share business, was they presented to me what they were doing, and I was like, this is the most incredible opportunity ever. Like, I see it. And now's the best time to just quit the audio share business and just cut my losses. But I hadn't had a paycheck for 18 months. Does anyone here live without a paycheck for 18 months? Boom. Congratulations, you're still here. And that's the life lesson. Guess what? You're still here. Life can seem like there's no way I'm going to make it through this, but guess what? You're going to. I don't know how, but we all somehow make it through. The life lesson I learned by not having a paycheck for 18 months is when I joined LVT, they offered me $35,000 a year. Okay, when I left Novell, I was making like $125,000 a year. And I was excited about $35,000 a year in life insurance. And guess how long I got paid $35,000 a year in LiveView? 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. Yes, it went on. Okay. So life, we always get caught in the temporary moments of life, right? But there's so much more to it than that. Patience. This is how the partnership founders thing happened with LiveView. I told them, you can't afford me. I wasn't getting a paycheck anyway. You can't afford me, but I want some skin in the game. In other words, I want to be part of this business, right? And all it was a okay. There was no contract signed. There was no nothing. In fact, there was no mention of being a partner or a founder in this business for 3 years. So I'm out doing all this crap, and I had no idea whether or not these two guys that I just hooked my wagon to were going to be, on their word. Now, at the same time, they had been burned by many, many people up to this point. So were they just going to give equity in the company away? No, not at all. They wanted to see, was I in it? Was my partner Dave in it, right? And after 3 years, they were like, yep, these guys are in it. And that's when they finally did it. It took patience. It took a lot of time to get through that. Now, I'm not saying you won't get taken advantage of, by the way. But also, you have to understand that it takes some time for people to build trust, right? Anyway, there's all kinds of wonderful things here we could talk about, which I've kind of already done. But without your why, you'll always be tempted to stop at the aid station at the side. You've got to know your why. Why am I doing this? And anytime you feel like you're going to quit, you got to go back to your why and go, that's why I'm going to keep doing this. Okay. And you'll find that all throughout your life. So you do all this great work. You pay $475 to put yourself through pure hell for 104 miles in 11 hours and 33 minutes so you can get a $30 belt buckle.
Sounds legit.
Bragging rights. Right? So value can be measured in a lot of ways. Life's most valuable experiences have no financial reward, right? What did I learn in the 104-mile mountain bike race?
You could do it.
That I could do hard things. That's what I learned. I could do it. I proved to myself I could do it, and I've got 20 years of entrepreneurship and a whole lot of losses and one win that proved I could do it, right? Your value as a person has nothing to do with income. How you treat people matters more than what you do, what you are selling, and how much money you have. Those relationships matter more than any of those things. You've got to know your EQ. You've got to know your why behind that. So success in life is measured by relationships and not in dollars. And the last thing I just want to leave you with is you got to enjoy the ride, right? There's no such thing as a destination. I'll be happy when, right? Life is the journey. It's the memories of what happened. Being on the Nike campus today was cool for me. You want to know why? Because I actually read the book Shoe Dog about a month ago. Okay. And it's funny reading that book for me because I feel like I was Phil Knight for 20 years. You read his stories and they almost mimic my stories. And it's just crazy to think how parallel a lot of these things are, right? it was just awesome. It's that journey, and those are the memories that we have. That's really what I want to leave you with, okay? Your mindset, grit, guts, and determination. And sometimes you get some luck. Just be prepared when that luck comes, right, to take advantage of it. That's what I want to leave you with.
Thank you very much. By tradition, we normally give our speaker a bottle of wine, but I heard from the grapevine that he doesn't drink.
I'm not a drinker, no.
Okay, so we're going to get you our book club book of the month.
Excellent. That's fine. Thank you.
All right. Before we get to that,